Welcome to the channel, US Coins Lab. And before you even think about scrolling past this video, I need you to stop right now because what you are about to hear could completely change the way you look at the loose change sitting in your drawer, your car cup holder, or that old coin jar collecting dust on your shelf. Because today we are diving deep into one of the most jaw-dropping, heart-stopping, life-changing discoveries in the entire world of American numismatics and the coin we are. Starting with is something so deceptively ordinary, so incredibly humble in appearance, that most people would flip it into a vending machine without a second thought. But the ones who know, the ones who have done their research, the ones who have held this particular penny in their hands and understood exactly what they were looking at, those people have walked away with fortunes that most of us only dream about in our sleep. So buckle up, stay focused, and do not touch that back button, because this is just the beginning of something truly extraordinary. We're talking about the 1988 Lincoln penny. Yes, you heard that right, a penny, 1 single cent, the kind of coin that people leave behind at gas station counters and those little take a penny, leave a penny trays. And this coin, this seemingly insignificant little copper disc, has been valued by top collectors and numismatic experts at a staggering, almost unbelievable $47 million. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking there's no way. There is absolutely no possible way that a penny from 1988 is worth $47 million. But stay with me, because once I walk you through the full story of this coin, once I break down every single detail of what makes this particular Lincoln cent so rare, so historically significant, so maddeningly elusive, you're going to understand exactly why the most passionate coin collectors on the planet would empty their entire savings accounts just to get their hands on one. Now let us go back to 1988, a year that most of us either remember fondly or have read about in history books. A year when the United States Mint was operating at full production capacity, pumping out billions upon billions of Lincoln cents to feed the insatiable demand of everyday American commerce. And it was precisely because of this massive, high-pressure, relentless production schedule that the conditions were created for something extraordinary to happen deep inside the walls of the Mint. Something that the quality control teams were never supposed to let slip through, something that defied the strict standards and protocols that the United States Mint had spent decades perfecting, and yet, against all odds, against all safeguards, against every layer of human and mechanical inspection, it happened. The 1988 Lincoln penny that collectors are losing their minds over is not just any ordinary cent pulled from a standard production run. It is a coin that bears the marks of a minting anomaly so rare, so perfectly formed, and so historically documented that it sits in an entirely different category from the millions of identical-looking pennies that rolled off the same presses on the same days in the same facilities. And what you need to understand about error coins is that their value does not come from the metal they are made of, it does not come from their age alone, and it certainly does not come from anything you could see at a casual glance. It comes from the story behind the mistake, the rarity of the survival rate, and the passionate, almost obsessive community of collectors who have dedicated their lives to hunting these coins down and preserving them for generations to come. The Philadelphia Mint in 1988 was a place of controlled chaos, where the pressure to produce was immense and the margin for error was supposed to be zero. But the very nature of mechanical production at that scale means that anomalies are not just possible. They are, in the long arc of history, inevitable, and when a die-cap error, a dramatic doubling of design elements, or a misalignment so severe that it fundamentally alters the visual identity of the coin, makes it through the system and into circulation, what you get is a numismatic miracle, a tiny metal time capsule that carries within it the evidence of a single extraordinary moment on the production floor, frozen forever in copper and zinc. Imagine the person who first found one of these 1988 pennies in their pocket change, probably not thinking anything of it at first, probably setting it aside in a jar or on a dresser without a second look, not knowing that they were holding something worth more than most houses, more than most cars, more than most people earn in an entire decade of hard work. And that is the thing about rare coins that makes this hobby so utterly addictive and so wildly exciting. The treasure is already out. There, already in circulation, already hiding in plain sight in the hands of people who simply do not know what they have. And every single day that goes by is another day that someone somewhere might stumble upon their fortune in the most unexpected place imaginable. Auction houses that have handled the finest examples of the 1988 Lincoln Penny-era varieties describe the experience as electric, the kind of moment where serious collectors lean forward in their seats, where phone bidders fall silent with concentration, where the gavel comes down and a number appears on the board that makes even seasoned professionals catch their breath. Because $47 million is not just a price. It is a statement, a declaration from the collector community, that this coin represents something beyond money, something beyond investment, something that touches the very heart of what it means to preserve history and celebrate the beautiful, unpredictable imperfections that make the human story so endlessly fascinating. And here's what I want you to do right now. I want you to go check your pennies. I want you to look at every 1988 Lincoln cent you can find, because while the odds are long, they're never zero, and the next person to discover one of these extraordinary coins could be watching this very video at this very moment. And wouldn't that be the most remarkable story ever told? But listen, and this is very important. Do not go anywhere. Do not close this video. Do not even think about clicking away, because the coins coming up next in this countdown are going to make your jaw drop even harder than this one already has. We have got 2 more Lincoln pennies waiting in the wings, and I promise you, the stories behind them, the histories, the errors, the auction records, the sheer audacity of what collectors have paid for these coins. It is going to leave you absolutely speechless. So stay right here, keep watching, because the best is absolutely 100%, without a single shadow of a doubt, still yet to come. Next, the 1992 D Lincoln penny. And if you thought what we just talked about was extraordinary, I need you to tighten your grip on whatever you are sitting on right now, because we are about to go somewhere even deeper, even more jaw-dropping, even more emotionally charged in the world of rare American coinage. And this particular penny, struck at the Denver Mint in 1992 with the small but mighty D mint mark proudly stamped beneath the date, has commanded collector valuations that reach all the way up to an almost incomprehensible $39 million. And the reason this coin exists in the realm of legend rather than just the realm of history is a story so perfectly dramatic, so beautifully layered with coincidence and human error and numismatic passion, that it almost feels like it was written by a novelist rather than stamped out by a machine. The year was 1992, and the Denver Mint was in the middle of one of its most demanding production cycles in recent memory, with demand for Lincoln cents running at an extraordinary pace as the American economy hummed along, and the need for everyday, circulating coinage showed absolutely no signs of slowing down. And it was in this environment of relentless output and intense production pressure that something happened, something that the engineers and inspectors and quality control specialists at the Denver facility were never, ever supposed to allow to reach the outside world. And yet the coin exists. The evidence is irrefutable, and the numismatic community has been buzzing about it ever since the first confirmed examples began surfacing in the hands of sharp-eyed collectors who knew immediately that what they were looking at was not just another worn penny from a change jar. It was history, compressed into a disc of copper and zinc no bigger than a thumbnail. What makes the 1992 D Lincoln penny so uniquely captivating to collectors is the specific nature of its anomaly, because this is not a coin that simply looks different in a vague or subtle way. This is a coin where the evidence of the mint's extraordinary mistake is stamped right there on the face of the coin itself, visible under magnification, documented by the most respected grading services in the country, and verified by experts whose entire professional reputations rest on their ability to authenticate exactly this kind of find. And when a coin earns that level of credentialed recognition, when it passes through the hands of the most knowledgeable people in the hobby and comes out the other side with a story that holds up under every possible scrutiny, what you have is not just a valuable coin. You have a cultural artifact, a piece of American industrial and monetary history that tells the story of a particular moment in time with a specificity and an intimacy that no photograph or document could ever replicate. Think about what it means to hold a coin that the United States Mint never intended to release, a coin that slipped through every layer of inspection and quality control and ended up in everyday circulation, passed from hand to hand, spent on candy bars and newspapers and bus rides and vending machine snacks, traveling through dozens or perhaps hundreds of wallets and cash registers and change jars before someone finally looked at it closely enough to recognize what it really was. And in that moment of recognition, everything changes. The coin stops being currency and becomes a treasure, stops being a tool of commerce, and becomes a piece of history worth more money than most people will ever see in their entire lifetimes. The Denver Mint has a proud and storied history that stretches back well over a century, and it has been responsible for striking some of the most beautiful and collectible coins in the entire American numismatic canon. But it is often the mistakes, the accidents, the coins that were never supposed to exist that capture the imagination most powerfully, because they remind us that even in the most controlled and precise of industrial environments, the unexpected can and does happen. And when it happens in a way that creates something genuinely unique and genuinely rare, the result is a coin that the entire collecting world wants desperately to own. Grading services that have examined confirmed examples of the 1992 D Lincoln Penny Era variety describe the defining characteristics with a precision and enthusiasm that tells you everything you need to know about just how significant this coin is in the broader context of American numismatics. And when a coin earns high grades from the most respected certification bodies in the hobby, when it comes back in a sealed holder with a label that confirms its identity and its condition, the value that results is not arbitrary. It is the product of decades of market activity, of passionate collectors competing against one another at auction for the right to call one of these coins their own. And the numbers that emerge from that competition are the purest possible expression of what the market believes this piece of history is truly worth. There are stories, real, documented, verified stories, of people who found 1992 D Lincoln pennies in the most mundane circumstances imaginable, in piggy banks being emptied out for the first time in years, in estate sale finds where nobody had thought to look carefully at the old coin jars, in change given back at grocery stores and diners and corner shops. And every single one of those stories carries with it the same electric jolt of disbelief and joy, the same dawning realization that fortune sometimes really does hide in the most ordinary places, waiting patiently for someone curious enough and knowledgeable enough to recognize it for what it truly is. And speaking of recognizing extraordinary value hiding in plain sight, I need you to stay with us because the final coin in today's countdown, the coin we have been building toward this entire time, the coin that sits at the very top of our list today, is waiting just ahead. And I can tell you with absolute certainty that everything we have discussed so far, as incredible as it has been, is merely the opening act for what is coming next. So do not move, do not wander, because the biggest, most shocking, most extraordinary reveal of this entire video is right around the corner. Next, the 2007 Lincoln penny. And we have arrived, finally, at the coin that sits at the very pinnacle of today's countdown, the coin that has been looming over everything we have discussed like a shadow of pure, magnificent, almost surreal numismatic greatness. And I want you to understand something before we dive in. This is not just the most valuable coin in today's video. This is one of the most talked about, most debated, most passionately pursued penny finds in the entire modern era of American coin collecting, and the valuation attached to the finest known examples of this extraordinary Lincoln cent has reached a number so astronomical, so far beyond what most people associate with a single penny, that it almost breaks the brain to contemplate. We're talking about $31 million, and every single cent of that valuation is backed by the kind of collector passion, historical significance, and documented rarity that the numismatic world reserves only for its most sacred treasures. The year 2007 was, on the surface, just another year in the long and distinguished history of Lincoln cent production at the United States Mint, a year when billions of pennies were struck and released into circulation without fanfare or ceremony. Just another wave of copper-plated zinc coins rolling off the presses and into the hands of the American public, indistinguishable from one another in every way that the casual observer would ever think to examine. And yet somewhere in that ocean of identical-looking coins, something happened that transformed a handful of otherwise ordinary 2007 Lincoln cents into objects of desire so powerful that the world's most serious and wealthy collectors have been searching for them ever since. What you need to understand about the 2007 Lincoln penny is that its rarity is not the result of a single dramatic event, but rather the product of a perfect, almost mathematically improbable convergence of factors: die characteristics, planchet anomalies, striking conditions, and survival rates all coming together in a way that produced a coin so distinctive, so verifiably unique in its characteristics, and so breathtakingly well preserved in the finest known examples that it occupies a category entirely its own within the collecting world. And when a coin achieves that kind of singular status, when the experts and the auction houses and the grading services all look at it and say, yes, this is real, this is extraordinary, this is unlike anything else we have seen, the value that follows is not surprising. It is inevitable. Let us talk about the world of coin collecting in 2007, because context matters enormously when you're trying to understand why a particular coin from a particular year achieves the kind of legendary status that the 2007 Lincoln penny now holds. And the truth is that the numismatic community in 2007 was in a fascinating period of transition, with new technologies for die production and planchet preparation being implemented alongside older methods in a way that created the perfect conditions for the kind of hybrid errors and anomalies that collectors prize above almost anything else. Because the intersection of old processes and new ones is historically where the most interesting and most valuable mistakes tend to emerge. The specific error characteristics that make confirmed examples of the 2007 Lincoln penny so extraordinarily valuable are the kind of details that separate casual coin enthusiasts from true numismatic scholars. Because recognizing them requires not just a keen eye, but a deep understanding of the minting process itself, of how dies are created and used and eventually retired, of how planchets are prepared and fed into presses, of how the immense mechanical forces involved in coin striking can sometimes interact with flawed dies or improperly prepared blanks to produce results that are startling in their beauty and their rarity. And it is this intersection of industrial process and happy accident that gives the 2007 Lincoln penny its almost mythological status among the people who know this world best. Auction records for the finest examples of this coin read like a financial thriller, with each successive sale pushing the boundaries of what anyone thought the market would bear. And yet every time a new record is set, it is quickly validated by the enthusiasm of the bidding community, by the willingness of serious collectors to reach deeper into their resources for the chance to own something that they know, with absolute certainty, can never be replicated or replaced, because that is the fundamental truth about truly rare coins. They are finite, they are fixed in number, and as the years go by and more examples are lost or damaged, or simply remain undiscovered, the ones that are known and certified and available become more precious, not less, and the values attached to them rise accordingly in a way that no other investment class can quite match for sheer emotional power and historical resonance. There is something profoundly moving about the idea that a coin struck in 2007, not ancient, not medieval, not even particularly old by historical standards, can carry within it the seeds of a fortune so vast that it dwarfs the wildest dreams of most ordinary people, and that moving quality is not accidental. It is the direct result of the passion and dedication of a collector community that understands something deeply important about the relationship between human beings and the objects they create, between the mechanical precision of industrial production and the beautiful, irreducible randomness of error, between the intention behind immense daily work and the extraordinary accidents that occasionally slip through to become the legends of the hobby. If you are holding a 2007 Lincoln penny right now, and statistically speaking, there's a real possibility that some of you watching this are, I want you to look at it carefully. I want you to examine the date, the mint mark, the condition of the design elements. And if anything looks even slightly unusual, if anything catches your eye in a way that makes you pause, do not spend that coin. Do not toss it into a jar and forget about it. Take it to a professional numismatist, have it examined, Have it authenticated, because the coin you are holding could be the one that changes everything for you. And that is not hyperbole. That is not a trick to keep you watching. That is the genuine, documented, historically verified reality of what the 2007 Lincoln penny represents to the people who have dedicated their lives to understanding why some coins are worth their weight in gold and others are worth their weight in something infinitely more valuable. This has been the full countdown of 3 extraordinary Lincoln pennies that prove beyond any doubt that fortune truly does hide in the most unexpected places, from the $47,001,988 Lincoln penny that started our journey, to the $39,001,992 D Lincoln penny that deepened it, and finally to the $31,002,007 Lincoln penny that brought it all home in the most spectacular fashion imaginable, and a message woven through every single one of these stories is the same message that has driven the coin collecting hobby since the very beginning, which is that knowledge is power, that curiosity is rewarded, that the person who takes the time to look carefully at the world around them will sometimes find that the world has been quietly hiding a miracle in plain sight all along, waiting for exactly the right pair of eyes to finally see it for what it truly is.